In the middle of shocking Israeli settler violence in the West Bank as a Palestinian father tries to grieve. That full report is just ahead. And AI inflation, how the growing demand for artificial intelligence may be pushing up prices on some of your favourite tech products. Well, the stock market in New York opens about 30 minutes from now, and no real surprise to see investors in a selling mood out there ahead of the open, indicating a weaker start to the trading week. We'll circle back there for the opening on Wall Street. Well, we begin with escalating strikes between the US and Iran and contradictory claims about what is going on in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian media say attacks on the country have continued into the afternoon Monday, after a fresh wave of tit-for-tat strikes over the weekend. The Iranian Foreign Ministry, meanwhile, signalling a push to use global legal channels against the United States.
Seeking justice and avenging the blood of the martyred leader and every Iranian who was injured or killed during the U.S. and Israeli military attacks is a fundamental principle and a demand shared by the public. The state has a clear responsibility in this regard. The Foreign Ministry is part of this process. At the international level, we will use every available legal and international mechanism, both to document these crimes and to pursue justice.
Well, Tehran also saying its forces launched new attacks aimed at US bases in the region. American allies Bahrain, Kuwait and Jordan all say they responded to aerial threats earlier today. The CNN's Paula Hancock's with me here in our Abu Dhabi studio. Iran launching fresh attacks then on military bases, they say, American military bases in several Gulf states and indeed in Jordan, of course. And what has happened over what now the past, I'd say, 72 hours has been the biggest escalation to date, hasn't it, since, you know, the sort of official end of this war, as it were, or certainly the beginning of the ceasefire.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing here, it's a familiar pattern. We're seeing Iran attacking certain vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, the US carrying out strikes, and then Iran retaliating by striking US assets in the region. But what we've seen over the past 24 hours has been more significant. We are seeing the US strikes not just targeting along the coastline of Iran, so the radar sites, the air defense systems along the Strait of Hormuz, they're also pushing inland more. We've seen, for example, Iran claiming a water pumping station having been hit. We haven't heard a US response to that at this point. But we're also seeing, when it comes to the Iranian retaliation, more countries in the region being involved in that. Now, Iran's claiming that they have done some damage at these US military bases in the region. Again, the US not confirming or denying that at this point. But we're also now hearing from the US president. He's just spoken to Fox News in a phone interview saying we're going to hit them very hard, saying we had a deal and they broke it. So he's not giving any indication that this is going to de-escalate. And so certainly there is a concern that this ceasefire is disintegrating as we're seeing these attacks.
And he frankly said himself that the ceasefire is over last week. And much sort of, discussion about whether that were really true, whether we should take him at his word. But certainly at this point it looks as if it is. Iran says that the US is undermining talks with Oman on what they say. Certainly we've seen some evidence to suggest that what's being discussed is, some sort of deal for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. There are, of course, conflicting reports about whether or not that waterway is open and allowing for the free passage of vessels. What do we understand to be the situation as we speak now?
At a very basic level, the US says that the strait is open and Iran says it isn't because of these US strikes. President Trump saying it's open as far as we're concerned. But when you look at the numbers of vessels that are even daring to try and make that transit at this point, it's minimal compared to what we usually see. We've got some figures out from the maritime intelligence firm Kepler for Sunday, and they say that 14 vessels managed to cross. Now, bear in mind, pre-war, you're looking at 110 vessels that were crossing. But of those 14, half of them were Iranian vessels. Also, they posted on social media the images of what you can see, that the very few vessels coming through. For the weekend, 10th to 12th of July, 50% less vessels were trying to get through. In fact, 52% those crossings were down. And when you look at where they were trying to cross, the majority, 6 of them, taking the Iranian route, so close to Iran. They have to coordinate with Iran, get Tehran's permission. Only 1 taking that central route, because that's believed to be the mined area at this point. 7 of them a dark or unknown route. So they're switching off their tracking devices. None of them openly admitting that they are sailing close to the Omani coast, which we know many of them have been, because they consider that to be the safer route, because that is what Iran is targeting at this point. So many more now switching off their tracking systems, but it's minimal, the number of ships.
I mean, CENTCOM has been posting about just how many vessels have been able to transit over the past couple of weeks. Those numbers were, significantly higher than back in sort of March and April. But as you say, those numbers really very much reduced again as we speak. All right, good stuff. Thank you. CNN's Kevin Liptak joining us from the White House. So what is the Trump administration saying about all of this? I mean, Donald Trump just spoke to Fox News a short time ago. So, how do we read what was said and what's in his mind at this point?
Yeah, and I think it's clear the president understands he's at something of a strategic crossroads here. The memorandum of understanding, in his view, has been completely brushed away. It has completely collapsed. And I think it's fair to say that the belief that the U.S. putting out these incentives for Iran, lifting certain sanctions, allowing them to sell oil in exchange for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, that didn't work, that the president's gamble in signing this document has so far failed. And now he finds himself in a position where he's deciding whether to go back to full-out war, which I think we're still a step away from now, or to allow the negotiations to proceed. And the president seems right now to want to do both, to allow his negotiators to try and broker some sort of agreement that would fully reopen the strait, but also extract nuclear concessions from Iran. We're now almost halfway through that 60-day negotiating period that the memorandum of understanding set out, but it doesn't seem as if they've gotten to talking about the nuclear issues at all. And so the president is left sort of exchanging fire with Iran on almost a daily basis, without any clear pathway of how that will reopen the strait. This all seems rooted in a misunderstanding between the two sides, and a lack of common understanding between the two sides about what exactly this memorandum actually stipulated about the strait. We heard from American officials at the end of last week on Friday saying that they expected a public statement from Iran saying that the strait would be reopened and that Iran would stop firing on vessels going through. And they actually expected it by Saturday when the Iranian foreign minister was in Oman meeting with his counterpart. Of course, the exact opposite happened as Iran began firing on those vessels. And you do hear now a degree of pessimism here at the White House that any grand deal will be able to be struck because, in their view, Iran has not adhered to the commitments that it made in the MOU. And so we are now stuck, I think, in this sort of liminal position, neither full-out war nor a full ceasefire, and the president will have to find a way to negotiate that. He did say in this interview with Fox News that he thinks the U.S. would ultimately become the, quote, guardian of the Strait of Hormuz, and that the U.S. would get paid for guarding it. Who makes that payment and how that setup would work, obviously very unclear.
Yeah. We guarded it for nothing, and now we're going to guard it. We're going to get paid for guarding it, he said. We just want to be reimbursed for doing all of this, for putting our people in danger, he added. More as we get it. Good to have you. Thank you. Now, look, I want to turn to the West Bank, where CNN accompanied the father of an American citizen killed by Israeli settlers back to the site of his son's death for the first time in a year. That journey quickly turned dangerous as armed settlers ambushed the convoy. Here's my colleague Jeremy Diamond's report.
Kamel Muslit hasn't been able to reach this land in over a year. This is the hillside where his son, Saif, an American citizen, was killed.
Looks like it's down here, if you want to walk. Yeah.
Beaten to death by Israeli settlers exactly 1 year ago. Since then, settlers have illegally occupied the area, preventing this father from getting the closure he so desperately seeks.
We have to keep an eye because usually they'll come down that way.
We've come here in an armored vehicle wearing bulletproof vests because of how violent these settlers have been. But we've made it.
What does it feel like to finally be here after a year?
It's just like to be honest with you, I'm imagining, just imagining him, so it's all a lot going on in my head right now, just what he went through at that moment.
I'll let you take a moment. Come on.
But this solemn, sacred moment won't last. Within seconds, we spot a car speeding towards us. We start to leave, but as we drive away, we see that 4 settlers have set up a roadblock. Armed with clubs and rocks, they try and block our way. First with their bodies, and then...
And now it looks like he's trying to slash our tires.
Oh, he's got a knife. He's going for the tire.
A group of independent journalists and activists are in the car behind us.
Right. Move, bitch!
But their vehicle isn't armored.
Go. Watch out.
Without an armored car, without a bulletproof vest, how do I get to my land? The Israeli army should be here and kicking them out. It's illegal for them to be there. It's frustrating. You're so angry and you can't do nothing about it. It just kills you from inside.
But the settlers aren't done. More arrive, blocking another road before chasing us and attacking us again.
No, they're trying to stop our car again. They're hitting us.
We finally make it back to safety, where I get on the phone with the Israeli military, which is responsible for security in this area. But settlers have also called the military, and these soldiers are only interested in harassing us, refusing to take action against the settlers. Minutes later, the commander of a different battalion arrives and sends his soldiers after the settlers, detaining them until the police arrive. The Israel police said they arrested 4 suspects and seized clubs and a knife. They vowed to, quote, bring them to justice accordingly. A full year later, Kamel Muslit is still waiting for his son's killers to be brought to justice.
No one's been arrested, no accountability.
Saif was just 2 weeks shy of his 21st birthday when he was killed. A Florida native, he had been visiting his family in the West Bank. At the time, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee condemned Muslit's killing as a criminal and terrorist act and vowed to pressure Israel to bring his killers to justice.
I reached out to the U.S. Embassy. I sent them a list of questions, and this is the response they gave me. They said the Trump administration has no higher priority than the safety and security of Americans. Due to privacy considerations, we have no further information to provide at this time.
I just feel if that was true, they would do something about it. At least an open investigation. That's the least that they could do. If it was anywhere else in the world, an American citizen was killed by a mob of extremists, of terrorists, what kind of outrage would there be? How disappointed would Saifullah be right now that, his U.S. passport did nothing for him?
Saif believed in that blue passport.
Blue is blue. Not because he's Palestinian American, he's just American.
But his family is still waiting for it to mean something, anything, in their pursuit of justice. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Sinjil, the West Bank.
And you can get a lot more on that. You can read Oren Liebman's article on this, about the incident on our digital platforms. He's written more on what has been this shocking incident. I'll leave you to do that. I'm going to take a very short break. Back after this.